Before we get started with this tutorial, I do need to say some things. First and foremost, I want to give a big thanks to Feline Entity and Zero Skies, as they were the ones who have helped provide this knowledge so that way I can be able to make this tutorial for you guys. I also want to thank Zero Skies as well, as they have provided me some, custom scripts that they have made so that way I can be able to utilize them for this tutorial so that way you guys know how the sort of workflow goes. So thank you to those two so much. It means a lot. Now, I do want to say this as well. I am not a coder. If you happen to have any issues with compiling, or depending on how you're setting up your script, you get some errors that are not explained in this tutorial, please join the Warudo Discord server or refer to the Unity documentation regarding the error that you have gotten. I sadly am way too new to C# that I simply cannot really be a good source when it comes to providing proper tech support. I'm still learning this, but also I do want to specify as well, even though I am still quite new to C# though, I was able to at least make this tutorial happen. So this tutorial, as you follow through with it, you should be able to have a general idea of where you can get your resources. It does nail down how you can do the conversion process of C# to Warudo Mod and how to test via Playground. Those are the ones I actually have the knowledge to nail down. But general C# with Unity, that I'm still new to. So be mindful about that. Join the Discord server. There are people there, and the dev is happy to answer questions, So if you have any questions regarding like your script stuff, ask it there. They're happy to help you out, and while you ask those questions, I'll probably also be lurking and learning from you guys. So yeah, but either way though, all I can say is good luck. Hey, hi everybody! I hope you're all having a good day. I hope you're all smiling and enjoying a lovely day. In this following tutorial, I will show you the general workflow when it comes to getting started with custom scripting for Warudo. This will include understanding code reference examples, how to load your C# scripts into the Warudo Playground, and converting your C# file into a Warudo mod so that way you can upload it to the Warudo Steam Workshop. To get started, make sure to check out the Warudo Playground examples. Down below you can see a getting started, and it explains to you how you can get started when it comes to custom scripting. It is also important as well to check out the example files here, as it will show you how Warudo sets up their nodes. As you can see here, you can see how the assemblies are set up and also how the overall code is arranged. You can even take a look at the comments. These comments will allow you to know what the heck each line of code does, so that way you can better understand the overall layout. I heavily recommend joining the Warudo Discord server. You can access all the example files here simply by going to the plugin scripting channel, then going to the pin message, and then clicking the jump button next to the second message that Tira, or otherwise Tiger, has made. And here you can see the Warudo Playground examples link, and you can see different kinds of example scripts to reference off, whether it's node or an asset. There is a basic examples, and then there's advanced, and also some instructions regarding distribution, which I will be showing you in a little bit. You can use a program like Visual Studio, Notepad++, or any equivalent program of choice in order to start scripting in C#. I heavily recommend as well that you take a read at the Unity documentation, because in order to do custom scripting for Warudo, it will be really good to have some Unity coding knowledge on hand. It will help you make things so much more convenient. It is also very important, as you can see here in the example script, that the Warudo assemblies are properly defined on the top here, and you can see how the code below is properly defined, the node type, the data input, and the data output, and so on. So, depending on the purpose of your plugin, it's very important that you do reference the pre-existing examples, so that way you can make sure that whatever plugin that you're trying to do will not only match closely with the example nodes, but also that it'll compile properly when it comes to preparing it for either the Warudo Playground or preparing it to be a Warudo mod to share with the workshop. Do note that for the Playground, an anonymous assembly definition is set up. So there could be certain assemblies, depending on what is defined here, where it can work perfectly fine in Playground, but for some reason when you're putting it into Unity, it simply doesn't work. For example, in my personal experience with this node here, this one right here, this line that's defining Warudo plugins interactions mixins, when I put this into Unity, I get an error, but when I put it into Playground, I get no error and it works perfectly fine. So just be mindful, mainly if you're going to convert your script into a Warudo mod. If the script works perfectly fine in Playground and you only want to use it in Playground, it is your choice if you want to leave the script as is, but keep in mind if you're gonna just convert it into a Warudo mod and share with other people, make sure that you do properly debug how you define your assemblies and other parts of your script. You can register your custom script in two different ways. You can either register it as an asset or you can register it as a node. Now here in assets, you can go to the panel, add an asset here, and as you can see, just to show you an example, Feline has made a health bar prop as an asset, and it also utilizes health bar nodes in order to make it function. So this is a very good example of a community-based custom scripted asset here. There's also flame streams asset as well when it comes to the gamepad and the pointer as well, if you want to do something like gamepad control or having the detection for a mouse and a drawing tablet for your setup. So this is a very good example for an asset. And then here in the blueprints, this is where you can be able to have custom nodes at as well. So let's say, for example, Zero Skies directional vector nodes. This node is not native in Warudo, but thanks to custom scripting, I'm able to actually utilize this node to have a much more accurate movement blueprint. So I can be able to use, let's say, my keyboard to control my character from one place to another, like as if it was in a video game. There's also as well, there is Feline's tween nodes as well, which is very nice to have like nice transitions, which is really cool. And last but not least, there's also Zero's color lerp node here, for instance, as well. This one I actually use for my audio link lights to make them more accurate. So these are examples, and there's plenty of more examples of nodes that are made via custom scripting, and then assets that are made with custom scripting. And like I said, please join the Warudo Discord server. You can learn a lot from there. Once you have studied and referenced the example scripts that Tiger has provided, and you have created your very first C# script for Warudo, in order to test your script, you're going to need to load the CS file and have it in the Warudo Playground folder under Streaming Assets. Now, make sure, like I said, Visual Studio, export it as a CS file, and then in order to access the Playground folder, you're going to go into the Warudo editor here, make sure Warudo is open, click on the purple paw here under menu, then click on Open Data Folder. Once you have that appearing, then you simply have to go down to the Playground folder that appears. And this is where you're going to be able to load your C# files. So simply click and drag your CS file over here, and in the Warudo editor, you should be able to have a pop-up message regarding if it has successfully compiled or if you get an error, which you'll see that the error will be red if it's not compiled properly, but green that it does work. Once you have experimented with your custom script and it functions properly on your end, it's also optional if you want to have others test the script before posting it to the Warudo Workshop. You can share your script in the Warudo Discord server under Plugins and Scripting, or the workshop chat, and other members of the community can help you test and debug your script even further via Playground. Once the script is ready to be turned into a Warudo mod, make sure that you have Unity 2021.3.18 installed and that you have the Warudo SDK Unity project downloaded and prepared on your computer. As you can see, that mine is properly set up. We can start by creating a Warudo mod by clicking on the Warudo button up here, then clicking on New Mod. Then give your mod a name. For my case, I'm going to call it Calculate Head Angles, but you can name it whatever you want depending on what the script's name is for organization purposes. And go ahead and click on Create Mod. Now, once you have your mod folder created, simply click and drag your C# script over to the mod folder. Now, before we get started on registering it as either an asset or a node, we do need to refer to the console and make sure that these errors that appear are fixed. It's very important because if you happen to have errors that simply just don't go away when you click on clear, or just have errors in general, this can actually cause some compiling issues, which is not good, because remember what I said earlier about the playground, that depending on how you set it up, it can work in playground, but it also may not be able to work fine when you're exporting it as a Warudo mod. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply open up this file in Visual Studio, so give it some time here, and I'm going to quickly just kind of show you, like, again, depending on your plugin, you're probably going to have very unique errors, so be very mindful about it. But you're going to kind of see me a little bit messy when it comes to, you know, debugging this one here. It'll be a little messy, so bear with me. So since I'm seeing that there is an error regarding the interactions assembly, I'm going to simply go ahead and delete this line here, press Ctrl S, and then see if the error has gone away, which it has. Now, I was also informed as well from Zero Skies, who has made this script, that the system numerics here, just for the sake of this tutorial, should also be deleted, at least for this script here. But again, depending on your plugin, it's going to be a different issue. So I'm not saying this as this is how you will fix your plugin, because again, it depends on what you're doing. But this is just to kind of show you that you can simply just edit your code here, and then you can simply debug it, so that way you can be able to get rid of the errors that appear on your console. And once you see that there are no errors, this will ensure that your script will successfully compile when using the Warudo mod. So in order for us to tell Warudo Mod to either register our custom C# script as a node or an asset, we are going to be needing the AwesomePlugin script template, and we're going to modify this so that way we can tell Warudo Mod, or in Unity, that this script here is supposed to be a node, and this script here is supposed to be an asset. You can simply either copy this whole script and paste it to Visual Studio or whatever program of choice you're doing the C# in, or you can click on download zip and download the file itself, so that way you can, you know, duplicate it and use it as reference for your local PC. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply go ahead and duplicate this file here, and I'm going to go ahead and rename this depending on what my plugin is. So for the calculate head angles, I'm just going to simply name it calculate head plugin. And then what I will do is that I will go ahead and click and drag this over to my mod folder here. And then what I'm going to then do after that is that I'm going to simply open up the file here. So here, this is the plugin, so I'm going to open that up in Visual Studio. Now, as you can see, this here is a template for the AwesomePlugin. We're going to be doing some modifications so that way it can work with our own custom plugin. Now, again, you're going to have to heavily apply your knowledge, but bear with me, I'll do my best to explain this. So first thing and foremost, we're going to look at the namespace here. We're going to go ahead and make sure to rename this to match our plugin. So for instance, from Tira, make sure to replace it with your name. So since the person who made this script name is 0, I'm going to put in 0. And then I'm going to simply name this as calculate head plugin, like so. And then over here, as you can see, this is so that way, you know how like in Warudo, when you're clicking on the mod settings here, we have this. Well, for custom scripting, it's actually all done here in this plugin. So simply you can go ahead and just rename this. So I'm going to go ahead for the ID. I'm going to select here on my namespace, and then I'm going to copy and paste the ID over here, like so. I'm also going to get rid of that A over there so it doesn't get messed up. The name of this will be pretty much sort of the name of your category, if that sort of makes sense. So I'm going to just name it, since this is simply just going to be a node, I'm just going to name this calculate head angles, like that. But you can name it whatever you want. The description you can put as what is the purpose of the plugin. So I could say replicates the Cammatic Blender plugin, but for Warudo, like that. The author will be, of course, your name. So I'm going to go ahead and put Zero Skies as the person who did, of course, create the original script. Version could be whatever number you want, so it could be 1.1 and stuff, but you can just leave it as is. Now here in this section of the plugin, this is where we can be able to register our C# script to either be an asset or a node. Now, if your script happens to be an asset, you can simply go ahead over here between these parentheses, depending on what your C# the file's name, depending on how you name it. Let's say, for example, I named mine firework asset. So make sure that you type exactly what is shown in Unity. So whatever, when you loaded your CS file into Unity, whatever you spelt that file, make sure it's the exact same spelling. So, for example, if I put firework asset, this is me telling the when it's compiling, I'm telling the Warudo mod that if you see a script that is named firework asset, that you will export this file as a Warudo asset type. For this case though, because this is only just a node, we can simply just go ahead, select this, and just delete it like that. Now, there's also another thing I wanted to say as well before I get into the node types. It's also very important as well to make sure that whatever your script's name is, it is very, very much unique. So let's say, for example, here on the calculate head angles, this sort of name could potentially cause a little bit, let's say just for example, this may cause some conflict depending on what other assemblies are defined in other stuff or other scripts that other people may make. So I'm going to simply go ahead and add node to the end of this, just for example. So just make sure that whatever you name your C# script, make sure that you have it where it's like really unique, so that way it doesn't conflict potentially with another person's script or something in Warudo. So make it as unique as possible. Not crazy unique though, but you get what I mean. Just make it unique but make sense. So I'm gonna go back to Visual Studio here, like so. And then what I'm going to do now is that for node types, since I've renamed my CS file here, I'm gonna simply go where it says type of, and it says my node, I'm going to go ahead and paste that name over here. Now, you can also define multiple nodes if you want as well. So if I have the directional vector script from 0 here, I can define that one, and then I can go so on and so on. So I can define multiple nodes if I want. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'm only going to be defining one of the nodes, and that will be this file here. You can also go ahead here in public class and make sure to rename it from AwesomePlugin to whatever your plugin's name is. So for this case, calculate head plugin. And then you can also just optional, but you can do this, that under public string info, you can simply just replace this name to be your own. So since Zero Skies made this plugin, I'm going to put Zero Skies. Alright, so once you have the plugin here all set up, your registry plugin, and then after you have this properly set up, you then have your main C# script here working perfectly fine and stuff. You can then, as well as also making sure that in console, besides this dynamic bone error or warning that appears, if all of your errors are resolved and all looks good, then we can actually go ahead and begin compiling our script, finally. So what we're going to do before we get to compiling is that we're going to make sure that, depending on your setup, go to Warudo and make sure to check either switch active mod or mod settings to make sure that the mod that you're currently on is correct. Just in case if you are switching between multiple different mods, make sure that you are on the correct one. And I also point out the mod settings here as well, because this particular setting, now these here you don't have to worry about, we already pretty much set this up in the script itself. But this here, mod export directory, this is important because this is where we can tell the Warudo mod where to export very easily. So if we have to do some debugging and stuff and we have to export to the plugins folder, because that's the thing, since now we're going from Playground into an actual plugin, we need to export this into the plugins folder. So simply go ahead and click on the button here. And then I'm going to go ahead here under streaming assets, and then, which I have on my quick access there, and I'm going to simply make sure that it is set up in the plugins folder here. So you can simply access the streaming assets, again, just a reminder, by going to the Warudo editor, clicking on the paw button, clicking on open data folder, and then once you have that, you can then simply double click on the top bar here, and you can be able to copy and paste, after, making sure that you have the plugins folder selected here, and making sure you then double click it, and then you could paste it in there. But for my case, I already have it here, so make sure it's in the plugins folder and click on select folder. So that way on the mod export directory, it is, set up properly. And once you have that and, all looks good, before you export your custom script into a Warudo mod, it is also important as well to make sure that you do delete the original C# script in the playground. Because if you don't do that, as you can see, the supposed, plugin version of what I compiled is not appearing. And in order to fix this, you're going to have to restart Warudo. So keep that in mind before you export. Make sure that in Playground, you get rid of it, so that way it can, you can make sure and verify that when you load it as a plugin, that it's going to work. You can simply now go ahead and click on Warudo and build mod. And of course, make sure that you save and then pretty much pray to God that you don't get an error. If your build has been successful, you should be able to have a pop-up in your plugins folder in the File Explorer showing you that your plugin has exported successfully. Congratulations if that was the case. But of course though, there are two errors I do want to point out to you that I did have to experience throughout learning this workflow. So I'm going to go over these two probably common errors that you may experience. So here's an example of the yellow warning that I have received during my practice of, building up this workflow. So if you see something like this where it's from uMod, which uMod is the component that the Warudo SDK uses to manage a whole mod system, and it states that the C# source file, so as you can see, it's saying what the directory is. So just for example, it says that it does exist in Unity, so it's acknowledging it exists. However, it's not recognized in the CS project file, and it's not going to be compiled. So something like this, it'll make it look like as if, like at first when you look at the plugin folder, you'll probably be like, oh wow, it exported perfectly fine. No, it didn't. If you get something like this, be mindful it did not compile at all because of this error. And I'm going to show you how you can fix this. So in order to fix anything that has to do with the CS project file warning, you simply have to go into Unity, right? Go to Edit, then go to Preferences, then you're going to go to External Tools, and then here in the external script editor, now by default it'll have the open by file extension. I recommend using, like, depending on what depending on your program of choice, I recommend I personally recommend using Visual Studio, but you can use what you want. But either way, you will have to regenerate those project files in order for that warning to go away. Of course, as well as I mentioned that in the Warudo Playground examples, as you pretty much saw earlier, there's also the example project file there as well, or the CS project. So you can refer to that as well if needed, if you know what you're doing. But you can simply just regenerate the files by just clicking on the script editor or choosing an editor, and then you will have to go here, generate CS project files for. I make sure to select all of them. I click on regenerate project files, and that actually helped me on fixing that warning, so that way it can properly compile. So this is another example of an error. This is a red error that I've gotten when it came to the compiling process. Now this is again associated with uMod. So for this case, now at first I didn't understand it, but what Zero Skies pretty much told me is that, you know, this is sort of just some error with a temporary file. So what you could do in order to probably and I say probably with a quotation, because for the case of, you know, during the screenshot, this was for the throw prop script from Zero. For their case, they had to actually go ahead and modify, you know, they had to review their script and do some modifications to kind of get this up and going. But for my case, when it came to the script that I was demonstrating with the tutorial, I had this error appeared, and all I had to simply do is just restart Unity, and it should clear up the issue. So if you see this, try restarting Unity first. If you keep getting this error, you may have to review your script, see if you put anything incorrectly, and I definitely recommend join the Warudo Discord server and talk to them if you got any like other issues. So because again, the two issues I just showed in this video, these are the ones I've experienced the most when I was doing my practice. But there's probably going to be many more kinds of errors you're probably going to experience, because this is Unity we're talking about. So please join the Warudo Discord server. Please check out the Unity documentation. And again, the dev is in the server. They're happy to help you out. We also have other members of the community that knows code, and they're happy to help you out. So if you get any other weird errors that are kind of hard to, you know, fix up, then please talk to them about it. Now, once you verify that your plugin is working perfectly fine as a plugin, as you can see here, this is an example blueprint of the calculate head angles. It's supposed to do the blend shape stuff on my face, like Cammatic. In order to actually share your node to the Warudo Steam Workshop, you simply go to the Discover tab here, go to Publish Items, click on Create Item. You can go ahead and name this to whatever the heck you want. Let's say this by Zero Skies, just for example. You can set up a tag as plugin for your case, and under files, make sure to press on the plus button here to add an element. And then you're gonna scroll down until, which you're gonna have to be very careful, and you're gonna find something that says plugin slash. If you see something like this, this is your custom script, and you could be able to share this to the Steam Workshop. And once you have that, you can set up a preview image, a thumbnail of the node that you have. And then you could also set it to public. You can have attribution or not. And then you can simply click on OK. Now, for the sake of this tutorial, I'm not going to press on OK. In fact, I'm going to press on cancel, because this ain't my node. I'm using this as a tutorial reference. So either way, though, pretty much that is how, in a nutshell, how you can prepare your C# file, so that way it can be able to be converted as a Warudo mod. You can also test it with the Warudo Playground, and this is also how you can even share your node on the Warudo Steam Workshop. This was a lengthy tutorial, at least for my own mouse, so I do hope you guys have a lovely day though, and I hope you learned some stuff. And again, I will say this again, please join the Warudo Discord server, because there are actual coders in that server. I am not a coder, so please do not ask me if you have any issues with your scripting. Again, this is supposed to be just a general guide. For further help, please join the Warudo Discord server. The dev is there, happy to answer your questions, and also other coders of the community that are happy to also help you out with their very smart knowledge. And with that being said though, I hope you guys have a lovely day, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye! thank you to all my Snowflake members. In case you don't know, I have YouTube membership, so if you want to further support this channel and what I do, then feel free to join the Snowflake members. Otherwise though, just your support means so much to me, and I appreciate every ounce of it. Either way though, with that being said though, hey goodbye everyone! I hope to see you guys next time, okay? Bye bye!